The day of my husband's funeral, I barely remember standing. I was holding onto my youngest daughter's hand so tightly, I think I left the little fingernail marks on her skin. She didn't let go, though. None of us did. We were just trying to get through it. Michael had only been gone 5 days. Cancer. Fast and cruel. 1 month he had a cough. The next we were planning a burial. Our daughters were 10 and 13, still trying to process what forever really means when you say goodbye. But somehow, even in all that heartbreak, she managed to make it worse. I'm talking about my former mother-in-law, Gloria. Now, Gloria had never liked me. From the first day Michael introduced us, she looked at me like I was a stain on her perfect little family. I wasn't soft-spoken enough. I didn't go to the same church as her, and I had opinions. God forbid. But I never thought she'd make my husband's funeral about herself. She showed up in this dramatic black hat like she was auditioning for a soap opera. Sobbed so loudly the pastor actually paused mid-sentence. And every time someone tried to talk to me, or my daughters, Gloria cut in with, "He was my only son, my baby boy," like we weren't standing right there. Let me be clear. Michael was 43, a grown man, a father, a husband. He hadn't lived under her roof since he was 19, but that didn't matter to her, because in Gloria's mind, she was the real widow. And me, I was just the woman who took him away. I let her have her moment because honestly, I didn't have the energy to fight. I had 2 kids to keep upright and a home to hold together. My plan was simple: get through the funeral, grieve in peace, rebuild our lives quietly. But Gloria wasn't done. 3 weeks later, I was at the grocery store with my girls. We were just getting cereal and snacks. I was starting to feel almost normal again, until we turned down the freezer aisle and ran into 2 of Gloria's church friends. They gave me this look. You know the one. Pity mixed with judgment. One of them actually reached out and touched my daughter's shoulder and said, "You poor girls. Your grandmother told us everything. We're praying for you." I was confused. I said, "Everything about what?" She hesitated, then whispered, "About how you're keeping them from her. How you've been cruel since Michael passed." I couldn't even respond. My chest locked up. I smiled tightly, grabbed my kids, and walked away. But inside, I was burning. I hadn't kept the girls from Gloria. If anything, they didn't want to see her. She made them uncomfortable. She kept trying to correct their emotions, saying things like, "Don't cry in public," and "Your father wouldn't want you to act like this." They were kids mourning their dad, and she was trying to control it like she controlled everything else. I realized right then, in that frozen food aisle, that Gloria wasn't just being difficult. She was rewriting the story, telling lies about me, playing the victim, and worst of all, using my daughters to do it. That was the moment everything shifted, because I was done being quiet. After that day in the grocery store, I tried to shake it off. I told myself, maybe those women just misunderstood. Maybe Gloria was grieving in her own messed up way. Maybe I was overreacting. But then it happened again. A week later, my oldest daughter, Maddie, came home from school looking pale. She's usually the type to slam the door, drop her bag, and immediately start complaining about algebra. But that day, she just stood in the hallway. I asked what was wrong, and she just handed me her phone. No words, just handed it over. It was a screenshot. A message from one of Gloria's church ladies. To my daughter. It said, and I quote, "Sweet girl, I know your mother is hurting, but she shouldn't be keeping you away from family who loves you. Your grandmother prays for you every day. We all do. Remember, God wants you to honor your elders." I sat down. Hard. They were going behind my back, reaching out to my kids, trying to guilt trip them, manipulate them, gaslight them. I asked Maddie if this was the first message. She looked down. "Grandma told them you were making us hate her." I stared at her, and then she added, "I didn't answer any of them, but they kept coming. One lady even said we should pray the bitterness out of you." Let me be clear. I've never stopped my daughters from seeing Gloria. I just didn't force them to. After the funeral, they told me themselves, "We don't want to go over there." And now, Grown women were trying to guilt-trip them into obedience. That night, I barely slept. I lay awake thinking about Michael, about how he'd spent years trying to set boundaries with his mother, about how she'd always bulldozed over them. And now that he was gone, she thought she could do the same to us. The next day, I called Gloria. She didn't pick up, so I left a voicemail. Gloria, your friends have been messaging my daughters, telling them lies about me. Do not involve them in your drama again. This is your only warning. She didn't call back. Instead, 2 days later, I got an email from her pastor. Yes, her pastor. He said he was concerned about the tension between Gloria and me, that she was heartbroken, not being able to see her grandchildren, that he hoped we could all find healing together. I didn't respond, but I did start digging, because something about all this didn't sit right. Why was her pastor suddenly involved? Why were church members reaching out to my kids? That's when I found it. I was scrolling through Facebook one night, just numb, scrolling, looking at memes and recipe videos, when I noticed Gloria had tagged someone in a post. A woman named Loretta Jameson. I clicked her profile. It was public. Her most recent post said, "Please continue praying for my dear friend Gloria. Her evil daughter-in-law is poisoning the children against her. She's lost her son, and now she's losing her grandbabies too. Some people are just full of hate." Over 30 likes, 18 comments, all from Gloria's church friends. I clicked on Loretta's Groups tab. That's when my jaw dropped. She was a member of a private Facebook group called Faithful Grandmothers Fighting for Family. That's not a joke. That's literally what it was called. I clicked the group. It was closed, but the description read, "For Christian women standing strong against toxic in-laws and selfish mothers, keeping children from their God-given grandparents." My hands were shaking. I couldn't see inside the group, but I didn't need to. I knew what was happening. Gloria had joined some warped, gossip-filled corner of the internet where bitter grandmothers validated each other's delusions. And she was telling them that I was abusive, that I was keeping her from her grandchildren, that she was the victim. And these women, they believed her. Worse, they were helping her harass my kids. This wasn't just a family disagreement anymore. This was coordinated. It was manipulation. It was a campaign. And it was time I treated it like one. That night, I opened a new folder on my laptop and titled it Receipts. I started screenshotting everything, messages, posts, even people commenting on them. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it yet, but something in me clicked. I wasn't going to fight her with more drama. I was going to fight her with proof. Because the next time she tried to play the victim, I was going to make sure she did it in front of an audience that actually knew the truth. And lucky for me, I knew exactly where that audience gathered every single Sunday morning. People talk a lot about letting go, forgiveness, turning the other cheek, but what they never talk about is how good it feels to finally stop being the bigger person. After I discovered that Facebook group and the lies Gloria had been spreading, I went into what I now call lawyer mode. I wasn't just mad anymore. I was organized, focused, dangerous. I started collecting every screenshot, every DM, every passive-aggressive post Gloria and her church army made. I didn't just want revenge. I wanted it to be undeniable, public, irrefutable. It wasn't just about me anymore. She crossed a line the moment she started messaging my kids through her friends. And that meant this wasn't going to end with a strongly worded phone call or a stern email. This was going to end in a way she couldn't ignore. I went to Staples and bought a white 3-ring binder. Thick, durable, the kind you'd use for a corporate merger. I printed every screenshot and organized them by category. Lies about me? 14 pages of Facebook posts claiming I was emotionally unstable, unfit to parent, and brainwashing my daughters. Harassment of my daughters? 11 pages of messages sent, directly or indirectly, to Maddie and Grace. Religious guilt trips? Manipulation? Thinly veiled threats disguised as prayers. Witnesses? Comments from other church members saying things like, "You're doing the right thing, Gloria. No child should be kept from their family." every page went into a plastic sleeve. By the time I finished, the binder was over 2 inches thick. And the cover? Just one simple title. The Truth. But I wasn't finished yet. I needed one more thing. Timing. I could have dropped this off at Gloria's house, mailed it to her pastor, emailed it to everyone she gossiped with. But that wasn't enough. This woman had waged a campaign against me in public. She lied in front of witnesses, shamed me to anyone who would listen. So I decided that's where it was going to end. In public. At her church. Now, to be clear, I hadn't stepped foot in that church since Michael and I got married in it 15 years ago. It wasn't my kind of place. Too much performance. Not enough grace. But I knew they held a monthly fellowship breakfast open to guests. Gloria talked about it constantly, like it was the Met Gala for church ladies. It was always the first Sunday of the month. So I marked the calendar. And I prepared. The morning of the breakfast, I dressed simply. Slacks, blouse, no makeup. I didn't want to look dramatic. I wanted to look honest. Like a woman who had nothing to hide. I arrived right on time, walked in like I belonged, and smiled politely when one of the greeters offered me coffee. The fellowship hall was full. Mostly older women, a few families, everyone chatting over egg casseroles and folding chairs. And there she was, Gloria. Front and center, wearing pastel pink and pearls, laughing like she hadn't spent the last 2 months defaming me behind my back. She didn't see me at first. I waited until she stood up to speak, because, of course, Gloria was on the prayer testimony committee. She tapped her glass. I just want to thank everyone for being here today and for your continued prayers, she began. Losing my son has been so difficult. But knowing I have such a strong faith family has helped me through the darkest times. A few people murmured, Amen. I've also been struggling, she added dramatically, because my granddaughters, well, they've been kept from me. It's not their fault, of course. They're just children. But it breaks my heart. I ask that you all keep praying for their mother, that God softens her heart. That was it. I stood up, walked to the front. Binder in hand. People turned, whispered. I ignored them. I walked right up to Gloria and said, loud enough for the whole room to hear, if you're going to lie in God's house, Gloria, at least be honest about it. Her eyes went wide. Rachel, what are you doing here? I placed the binder on the podium. This, I said, tapping the cover, is a collection of every lie you've told about me. Every message your friends sent to my daughters. Every time you used prayer as a weapon. A few gasps. I opened it. Showed the first page. A printout of her friend Loretta's Facebook post about me being evil. Flipped to the next. A message to Maddie, guilt-tripping her about honoring her elders. Flipped again. A screenshot of Gloria in the Facebook group claiming I was mentally unwell. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just let the pages speak for themselves. This is what you've been doing behind my back, I said, while I was trying to raise 2 grieving children, while I was trying to survive without my husband. Gloria looked like she was about to faint. I turned to the room. I didn't come here to cause a scene. I came here to say, this ends today. You don't have to like me. You don't even have to understand me. But you will stop spreading lies about me and my children. Or next time, this binder goes to a lawyer. And then, I walked out. Binder left wide open on the table. You know that moment after a storm passes, when everything is quiet? Not peaceful. Just quiet in that heavy, electric way. That was the church fellowship hall after I walked out and left that binder open on the table. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I'd made my point, and I had no interest in giving Gloria another second of my energy. I'd shown them the truth. And I knew they'd read it. By the time I got home, my hands were still shaking. Not from nerves, from relief. I wasn't scared of Gloria anymore. She had spent months turning me into a villain in her little soap opera, and I finally got to show people what was really happening, with receipts. The first sign that the fallout had begun came that afternoon. A Facebook friend request from Loretta Jameson. Yep, that Loretta. The same woman who'd called me evil in that post. I didn't accept it, but I did read the message she sent with it. Rachel, I want to sincerely apologize. I didn't know the full story. I just believed what Gloria told us. I had no idea she was messaging your daughters or saying those things. Please know I'm truly sorry for contributing to any harm. There it was, the first crack in Gloria's wall of lies. Over the next few days, more messages rolled in. From other church members, most of them older women I barely remembered from the funeral. We're so sorry. We had no idea what was really going on. Thank you for speaking up. That took courage. The best one came from a woman named Cheryl, who apparently ran the church's hospitality committee. If you're ever willing, I'd love to bring you some meals. No agenda, just support. You deserved better. I didn't respond to everyone. Some I simply left on read. I wasn't looking for validation. I already knew I'd done the right thing. But it was nice to see the narrative changing. It was even better to know Gloria had to sit in that discomfort. I didn't hear from her for 2 full weeks. No apology, no excuses, not a single word. Then, a letter came. Yes, a letter. Handwritten, folded inside a floral card that said, "Praying for you." I sat at the kitchen table, stared at it for a while, then finally opened it. It started with, "I'm sorry you felt the need to confront me publicly." And that told me everything I needed to know. Not, "I'm sorry for what I did." Not, "I was wrong to manipulate people." Number just, "I'm sorry you felt." Classic Gloria. The rest of the letter was a weird mix of faux concern and spiritual gaslighting. Lines like, "I've only ever wanted what's best for the girls. You're clearly still hurting, and I pray you find peace." It was never my intention to cause drama. No ownership, no accountability, just holy-sounding deflection. I didn't write back. Instead, I took a photo of the letter, saved it in my receipts folder, and slid the original into the trash. With tongs. Because I didn't want her energy touching anything I owned. A few days later, Maddie came home from school and said something I'll never forget. She said, "Hey, Mom, nobody's messaged me in like 2 weeks." Just like that, like it was a weather update. But I heard the relief in her voice. And that was all the confirmation I needed. The war Gloria tried to start, the campaign she waged behind the scenes, it was over. She'd lost. I never stepped foot in that church again. Didn't need to. But a friend of mine, someone who'd grown up with Gloria, called me a month later. "You really dropped a bomb in there," she said, laughing. "You'd be amazed how quiet she's been." Apparently, Gloria stepped down from every committee she was on. Women stopped inviting her to brunches. One even confronted her directly, asking why she lied about the messages. Her answer? "I just wanted to stay close to my grandchildren." Right. By slandering their mother and weaponizing Bible verses, her reputation never fully recovered. And honestly, neither did her access to my kids. Because after all of this, they didn't want to visit her anymore. They saw the manipulation for what it was. And once a kid sees the truth, it's over. These days, Gloria still sends the occasional Christmas card. Never addressed to me, just to Maddie and Grace. The girls open them, glance at the gift cards inside, and toss them in the kitchen drawer without a word. They're polite, but they're done. And me? I sleep better now. Not because I won some petty war, but because I protected my daughters and I finally stopped letting someone else control the narrative. People love to say, just be the bigger person. Let it go. Don't stoop to their level. Turn the other cheek. And for years, I tried. I really did. Every comment Gloria made at family dinners, every passive-aggressive birthday card she gave me, every time she accidentally forgot to invite me to events but made sure to mention it in front of the kids later, I swallowed it. I told myself she was just set in her ways, that she loved her son in her own strange, controlling way, that I could keep the peace if I just stayed calm. But here's the thing nobody talks about. Sometimes staying calm enables cruelty. Sometimes silence tells the liar they're safe. And sometimes being the bigger person just makes you an easier target. When my husband died, I lost the only person who ever truly knew how exhausting it was to deal with her. The only one who saw the way she undermined me, challenged my parenting, made me feel like an outsider in my own family. And then, while I was grieving, she went after my children. That was the line. That was the moment I stopped trying to be the reasonable one. Because there's a difference between being kind and being a doormat. People ask me if I regret it. If I regret showing up to her church with a binder of Facebook posts and private messages. If I regret embarrassing her in front of her little prayer circle. If I regret turning a quiet family feud into a public reckoning. I regret waiting so long. I regret every time I let her spin the story before I spoke up. I regret every time I told my daughters to just be respectful to someone who disrespected me to my face. I regret thinking that silence was strength, because strength is protecting your kids, even if it means making people uncomfortable. Strength is telling the truth, even if it makes you the bad guy in someone else's story. And sometimes, strength is printing out screenshots and walking into a church with a binder of receipts. If you're watching this and someone in your life is rewriting the narrative, telling lies about you, twisting facts, playing the victim while painting you as the villain, I want you to hear this. You are not crazy. You are not overreacting. And you are allowed to defend your story. You don't owe anyone silence just because they're older, or louder, or holier than thou. You don't owe anyone access to your peace just because they share your last name. And you sure as hell don't owe anyone forgiveness just because they claim they meant well. You get to decide who's safe in your life. You get to set the boundary. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is shine a light on someone's darkness and let everyone see it for themselves. My name is Rachel. I'm a widow. I'm a mom. And I'm no longer the quiet one in the corner letting other people tell my story. That chapter's closed. And this new one? It's mine. All mine. If you found this story satisfying, empowering, or just a little bit savage in the best way, hit that like button. Subscribe for more real-life stories of revenge, justice, and standing your ground. And in the comments, tell me, have you ever had to gather your own binder of truth? I'd love to hear your story. Remember, silence might keep the peace, but the truth sets you free. Stay bold, stay honest,